My name is Megan Prenti. I am a registered massage therapist and a yoga teacher working here at the Coach House Therapeutic Center. Today we're going to talk about a little bit of stretching through the arms and coming up into the neck. So our first stretch for the day is we're going to talk about the forearm flexors. So these are muscles that run from just above the elbow. It's a group of muscles that comes down through the front of the arm, plugging into either the wrist or the fingers. And they're responsible when your palm is face up for bringing your fingers back towards your forearm. So to stretch these muscles, which are commonly tight in people driving, doing intricate repetitive motions, or even sitting at a computer, especially without proper ergonomics, things like the wrist pads. So most of us can use from a little bit of a stretching through here. So to stretch, we're going to keep the elbow nice and straight. The wrist we're going to slowly bring into extension and just holding onto your fingers so you can gently pull your fingers towards the back of the arm. You're going to feel that stretch light up through the top of the forearm. You're going to wait until you find that stretch and hold it for about 30 seconds. So this is your sort of step one, and in a moment I will also show you a deeper way to get into these muscles. But first we're going to release and we're going to move on to the forearm extensors. So those are found on the back of the arm. Turn your hand so it's palm down. Again, they're crossing from the elbow. This group of muscle runs down the back of the arm. Some plug into the wrist bones, some coming down into the fingers. So to stretch it, elbow stays straight, bending at the wrist, and just gently with your opposite hand pulling along the back of the hand, tucking your fingers down towards the floor. You want to feel that back of the forearm lighting up, nice steady stretch. Another option to get a little more pressure in through your forearms is coming onto all fours. So we'll start with the flexors. You're going to take your fingertips, turn them back towards your body. So your fingertips are pointing towards your knees. The eyes of your elbows should be pointing straight away. Now this is a little difficult because I'm double jointed, so my elbows tend to point in opposite directions. But you want to keep your arms straight and this eye of the elbow pointing away from you. You're going to feel this pull, the stretch in through here, and then you can just gently lean back until you have an appropriate amount of tension through the arms. The elbows have to stay straight and you want to keep the palms on the mat. So finding a level of stretch that works through the arms, again holding it for 30 seconds, gently coming up. When you come to do the extensors, we're going to do almost the same thing, except we're going to turn our hands around. I will say these muscles tend to be a little tighter and a little more sensitive, so you maybe don't want to start leaning as far back. The eyes of your elbows should point back towards your belly, and again you're trying to keep your elbows straight, backs of the palms on the hand. You can lean back. If the lean is too much, you can stay still. Another way to engage through the lower part of the muscles, curling your fingers in towards the palm, and that will really help release the parts of the muscles down lower to the wrist. So again, coming off, make sure when you come out, maybe just do a couple wrist rolls, releasing through the wrists. There's also options to manually release a little bit. So we can use our handy dandy trigger point ball. You can just do some gentle circles, manually pushing with your hand. You can even use a surface like a table or a chair, and you can weight bear coming down. And again, just sort of gently rolling back and forth. You'll find a sweet spot, maybe staying there. People who tend to get conditions like tennis elbow or golfer's elbow or tendinitises, you want to come up into those attachments. So just coming right in along the elbow. And again, if you have more specific concerns, it's always something that's important to go over with your healthcare practitioner, making sure the exercises that you're doing are correct, but also tailored for your needs. So that's our lower arm done. We're now going to come into our upper arm. So let's talk about biceps. Biceps running from just below, coming all the way up. There's two heads. When we flex our bicep, you get that nice typical beach muscle happening. And so to stretch it, we want to bring length in through the front of the body. This muscle crosses both the elbow and the shoulder, so we really have to bring those into a stretch position. So both of those are going to have to come into extension behind us. To stretch bicep, my favorite is to use a chair or a table and to do this standing. So you're going to get your table or your surface here. I'm going to start with the right arm. So my hand is just going to gently grip onto the table. I'm going to just lunge forward. You can see my elbow stayed straight, my shoulder is straight, it's coming behind me, and I'm feeling that gentle line of pull coming from the chest all the way down through the front of the arm. Holding this for about 30 seconds, and then you just get up and do the same thing on the other side. So biceps, very similarly, you can use the ball kind of manually rolling it in. If you need more pressure, you can pin the ball along a wall and you can kind of lean your body weight forward, coming up and down. I find you have more control holding the ball itself. You can roll it along the muscle attachments. Biceps is something I find, especially through the top of the shoulder, tends to get very tight with people who are tight and rounded through the chest. So your trigger point ball can be very helpful to help release through there. When we do one side of the body, we have to do the other side as well. So running from the back of the arm is triceps. To stretch this, sitting however's comfortable. Tuck your chin in so it's out of the way. We'll start with the right hand, lifting it up towards the ceiling. Chin's tucked in and out of the way. We're going to bend at the elbow, so the hand's just relaxed behind you. Using your left hand, gently pull the right arm into the midline. And you also want to be careful. There's a tendency to always want to roll forward. So you want to kind of push your elbow behind you so that you're staying nice and straight. You want to feel that stable stretch up through the back of the arm. Again, holding for 30 seconds before gently releasing. Coming to the other side, you can also do that manual rolling. It's a little harder to reach behind, so you can pin your trigger point ball between you and a wall. We're going to go into the delts. So delts are a small little triangular muscle, and they help us lift our arms up to the side. We have to isolate these fibers to stretch them. So to stretch the back portion of delts, sitting tall, you're going to take one arm, reach it across your chest, the other arm gently pulling it forward, and you should feel this little back part light up. Holding for 30 seconds, coming into your second side. Now to stretch through the front of delt, as well as stretching the external rotators of your rotator cuff. So without going too deep into it, your rotator cuff is 4 main muscles that make up the back of the shoulder. 3 of them do external rotation, so this movement. In order to stretch that and the anterior delt, you're going to take your hand, you're going to come into internal rotation, so bringing your hand, trying to wrap it behind your back. And when you're doing this, often the shoulder wants to collapse forward, so you want to think about pulling your shoulder behind you, keeping your chest open. Now this is really difficult for a lot of people to get in there, so one thing I suggest is using a strap. No fear, if you don't have a strap, dish towels work just as well. So if I'm going to stretch this left side, my right hand's going to hold my strap, my left side tucks in behind, I'm now holding on, and then as my muscle softens, I can gently pull it till I feel a line of pull, holding for 30 seconds. Maybe after 10 seconds or so it loosens a little so I can get in a bit more, maybe not. But it's a nice way to work at, because not everyone can stretch side to side. You might also notice that it's much easier on one side than the other. So using your dish towel or your strap can really help to increase the range there in a way that isn't going to tear the muscles as you're stretching. Yeah, and then we're going to come into more muscles of the neck. So upper traps, this is a big broad sheet of muscle. It helps come all the way out from the back of the neck and over the shoulders. We somewhat use it when we're shrugging, but we use it a lot to bring our ear towards the same side contraction. So to stretch, if we were going to stretch the right side, sitting tall, I would drop my left ear towards left shoulder, and then I would feel this lateral or outside portion of my neck stretching. I'm also going to make sure on this right shoulder that I'm squeezing my shoulder down towards the floor so that I'm anchoring that attachment point. Holding for 30 seconds, coming up through the center, making sure to do both sides. Another neck muscle that we see that's commonly tight is levator scapula. So it runs from the scapula or the back of the shoulder blade, plugs into the side of the neck. This is when you get really stressed, you start wearing your shoulders like earrings. This muscle is really tense. So starting by dropping your shoulders down towards your hips so your neck is nice and long. Just like a trap stretch, let's turn right ear to right shoulder. So this would be stretching your left side here. You're going to start here, and then you're going to tuck your nose down and in like you're trying to do a sneaky deodorant sniff test here. So the first part is your ear tilts to the side, and the second part is as the chin rolls in, it really isolates the fibers of the levator scapula muscle. You can hang out here for 30 seconds. If you do this stretch a lot and you don't really feel that the line of pull is coming, you can take your hand and gently rest it on your head. So you're not pulling your head, but you're just allowing a little bit of weight to help pull those attachment points a little bit further apart. Then we have the scalene muscles. So the scalenes are a group of 3 muscles running through the front of the neck. They attach onto the ribs, so anytime that you're sick, hacking, or coughing, they tend to get very tight. Also, postural complaints can affect them. We're going to stretch them very similar to how we stretched upper traps. So to do the left side, I'm going to tilt right ear to right shoulder. And then to isolate the scalenes from the upper traps, I'm going to tilt my chin up towards the ceiling. So as I tilt, you'll feel the stretch rotate into the front of your throat. You'll feel the line of pull, and you can just find a sweet spot, hang out there for 30 seconds before releasing the stretch and going into the other side. For neck stretches, I typically use a bouncy ball, exact same principle as the trigger point ball, but because these are really small muscles, I find this helps to isolate. So I would just gently, if I was going to work on the right side of my neck, tilt my head slightly to the side, the bouncy ball comes nice into the palm, and I manually roll coming in through the side of the neck. And as you can see, sometimes your hair gets a little caught up in it. That doesn't always feel so great if that's a problem. If you have a hoodie, putting your hood up and rolling over top of it. If you're at home and you have a hand towel or anything, that's great. You can lay it down, work over top of it, and it doesn't matter.